Welcome to licklibrary.com. I'm Dan Veal. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at basic slap bass technique and getting it to groove with a basic drum track. So what is slap bass technique? It was reputed to have been created by a bass player called Larry Graham in the late 70s, where in the absence of a drummer, he would slap down on his bass like this to create more of a rhythmic feel to his bass playing. He'd also used a pluck technique as well to double up maybe what the snare drum was doing, like this. Or alternate the two in a rhythmic fashion to create more of a rhythmic sort of pounding bass line, for example like this. This opens up some doors for some really interesting rhythmic feels in a song or a piece of music. I'm going to play a few exercises in a moment where we'll start with a very basic bass line and then work up with more rhythmic ideas which you can take away and use to create your own bass lines. Firstly though, we're actually going to look at the technique itself and how I like to create a good tone. Now I'm going to start with the thumb. Many bass players treat this technique in their own way and it's up to you how you approach it, but here's some light pointers. I prefer to play with what I call thumb down, and you may see quite a few bass players who play their bass lower down using this technique because it's more comfortable. You slap with the side of your thumb. I like to use the bony area because I think it sounds stronger. I can demonstrate this by banging on the side of my bass. With the side of my finger, it'll sound like this. You can probably hear that. And yet if I hit with a softer part of my thumb, it doesn't sound to be as much power there. So, hammer down on the string, much like playing a xylophone or something like that with a stick. Just bring your thumb away nice and quickly. Go across each string one at a time, just to get used to how it feels and how you might want to move your thumb across. Other bass players like to play with their thumb in an upright position, more like this. You can see players like Mark King, for example. Feels a little bit uncomfortable for me. It's been suggested that each way has its own advantages and disadvantages, so it's up to you to try and see which one you prefer. Now, playing in this position, I find that when I pluck with any of my other fingers, having larger hands, I find it easier. And I can show you how I do that now. Get your finger, and I like to hook mine open, but leave the hand nice and relaxed in a position like this. You may even see some bass players with their hands tight or wide open. And I just like to hook my finger around and just flick it off the string like that. If you want to do that now, just go across. I'm going to try and put the thumb and the finger together now and see if we can create, a bit of a beat, a bit of a rhythm. So I want you to play one thumb, one finger on each string, going down and up. And it'll look like this. Don't worry about time or anything like that, and you'll notice that there's a volume and a tone difference as well. Try and get them to sound more or less the same volume, but just work on getting the note to sound. For example, if If you want to try that with your thumb up or in any other position, go ahead and try that as well. You could try like this, which I find difficult, or even if you like playing at this kind of angle, try that a few times in your own time and just see how you get on with it. Okay, we're going to go through some exercises now with a very basic drum track. I've made it as boring as I possibly can in order to show you that the bass can actually make it move and more exciting. So first of all, here's exercise 1 and I'll play through it for you. Okay, in that exercise I chose just 3 notes, E, D and A. In the next exercise I'm going to add a bit more to it, add a bit more feel to it, a bit more of a rhythm as well, alternating between slaps and plucks. You can try this out in your own time afterwards, see how you get on. Okay, so here is the next exercise. In that exercise, I just put some ad-lib extra beats in just to give it a bit more interest. But still, it's not really moving around, and if you're playing with chords, you might want to imply whether or not the bass line is major or minor or whatever the chord sequence may be. And in the next exercise, I'm going to show just adding in some major and minor thirds and fifths into the bass line just to make it a little bit more interesting. In that exercise, you probably heard that I added some chords in there as well, just for a bit more of a rhythmic feel, so you can get an idea about what the rest of the band may be doing in a simple context. The final example I'm going to do for you, I've added a bit of a melody as well, and then I'm going to ad-lib completely over it, nothing planned, just to see what I can get out of this particular track. So this is the final example. Okay, so that concludes the exercises for this lesson. Hopefully you've got some good ideas now to take away and create your own groovy slap bass lines. Have a think about some of the things I've said about which way to point your thumb and how you go about getting a good strong note out. And we'll see you again for the next lesson. Thanks very much.